Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Good morning, everybody. Scottie Scheffler has gone from green jacket to orange jumpsuit in a matter of weeks. He also squeezed a kid in there in the middle of it. So hell of a month for Scottie Scheffler. This is one of those stories that you rubbed your eyes groggy this morning, not really sure if it was real or not, because that's just the nature of social media these days. I barely trust the photo behind me of Scottie Scheffler in an orange jumpsuit, but there's a lot to catch you up on if you're not at all familiar with golf or just catching up to the news. The world #1 golfer on his way to Valhalla, where the PGA Championship is being held.
Pulling into work.
Yeah, not the actual Valhalla. That's the name of the golf course. It's apparently hard to get into both. So there was a fatal accident, and that's horrible. Scottie Scheffler, on the way to the club, decides to try to circumvent the traffic jam, gets flagged down by police saying, no, you can't do that. And things get nutty after that. You don't necessarily tell officers no. At least normal people don't. But you would think if anyone would be able to get away with it, maybe the world #1 saying, guys, I got a tee time. But all right, so I got to take a beat and really try to break this down for you, because Jeff Darlington was on the scene. And I think this is the first time in recorded history that anyone has actually pleaded to Jeff Darlington help as they're being dragged away in handcuffs. So, Chris, we have some video of Jeff Darlington on the scene, right?
We do.
All right.
We have Jeff Darlington on the scene, and we have him on SportsCenter kind of just painting the whole picture. Maybe we do that first.
No.
He kind of sets the scene.
No. I want to go chronologically here, because it's dark. The sun has not come out yet. Scottie Scheffler's in shorts. Scottie Scheffler is driving himself. So here's a video. We're going to play this for you now. Jeff Darlington on the scene.
Guys.
Dude, step back. Back up, or
I'm back. I'm back.
You're game one, right? Yeah, that's 15.
Guys.
What do we tell you?
I'm staying back.
Here's the thing. Right now, he's going to jail.
Okay.
He's going to jail, and it ain't nothing you can do about it.
Surreal.
This is my whole TikTok algorithm, by the way. It's not usually Scottie Scheffler, but I'm a big, people getting arrested, people videotaping it. So this is, very common to me. I see these every day, and it's never usually Scottie Scheffler on the way to a major. It's usually a random person, but these are my bona fides in this. But this is one of the funniest stories. It's funny. Can we laugh about this?
Yeah, I think we can. I think this is when social media is at its best, and I don't want to say nobody got hurt, because there was a fatal accident that basically was the seed to all of this. But this is unrelated. It should be noted and verbalized. Scottie Scheffler was not at all involved with that accident. It just caused a traffic jam, and that's where this whole chaos ensued. But Scottie Scheffler gets hauled away. And I guess there towards the tail end of the video,
he's in handcuffs
with the officer saying he's going to jail no matter what. We don't see it in that video, but the message at some point had to have been relayed either by Scottie or by Jeff Darlington that, hey, no, this is a golfer. He's quite good, and he's golfing in this. And the police say it doesn't matter. Now, according to the police, he was. Now, there's some conjecture online that this has already been resolved by the way that this has been described there, that either by plea or by trial or dismissal, this has already been resolved.
Somebody finally figured it out and was like, we screwed up here.
And Scottie Scheffler is presently on his way back to the course. He's been released, but he was indeed booked. Now, we do have another video of Jeff Darlington almost panting, hair disheveled and all that, describing the scene. And this is courtesy of ESPN this morning on Get Up.
Entering Valhalla Golf Club this morning, we witnessed a car pull around us that was Scottie Scheffler was in the car. To be very clear about the details here, Scottie Scheffler has been detained by police officers, placed in the back of a police vehicle in handcuffs after he tried to pull around what he believed to be security, ended up being police officers. They told him to stop. When he didn't stop, the police officer attached himself to the vehicle. Scheffler then traveled another 10 yards before stopping the car. The police officer then grabbed at his arm, attempting to pull him out of the car before Scheffler eventually opened the door, at which point the police officer pulled Scheffler out of the car, pushed him up against the car, and immediately placed him in handcuffs. Scheffler was then walked over to the police car, placed in the back in handcuffs, very stunned about what was happening, looked toward me as he was in those handcuffs and said, "Please help me." He very clearly did not know what was happening in the situation. It moved very quickly, very rapidly, very aggressively. He was detained in that police vehicle for approximately 20 minutes. The police officers at that point did not understand that Scottie Scheffler was a golfer in the tournament, nor, of course, that he is the #1 player in the world.
Oh, nice close.
Great close. Landed the dismount. Yeah, Chris Cody, you heard correctly. For approximately 10 yards, Scottie Scheffler, the world #1 reigning Masters champion, was dragging a police officer with his car because a police officer
was attached,
was hanging on to the car, physically trying to stop Scottie Scheffler from going into the club and circumventing this traffic.
Now, if there's any golfer, if you said to me a golfer had an incident and he didn't name drop, I could see Scheffler being one of those guys. He seems like a humble guy. Like Rory is saying, I'm Rory McIlroy.
Well, as you know, Scottie Scheffler is the tour's resident bad boy. So this only adds to the legend.
But what did he say? Like, let's just our guesses in here. Let's get reckless. Like, did he say, I'm a Masters champion? Like, what was his? He had to have given a line of like, guys, I'm somebody.
World #1 is kind of the flex, but I mean,
I just won the Masters is strong.
Yeah, I just won the Masters. Hell of a week, man. Have a week, Scottie Scheffler. There's a lot of people.
I have a child. Would have helped.
There's a lot of golf fans right now really confused as to who they should back in this situation. Do you back the blue or do you back the world #1? I imagine 45's has the button meme on his brain right now. Jess, we've been exchanging memes. This is all happening in Kentucky. I saw the Kentucky governor's already been freezing cold taked because he said something along the lines of, let's show the golf world our hospitality that we're known for and whatnot. What is #1, I'm not on the social medias right now. Is there any other additional news? It looks like, I was thinking this morning that this is by far the funniest way I've ever lost a golf bet, but it looks like he's actually going to play in this thing.
According to ESPN, he was on his way to the golf course about 10 minutes ago, so he may be arriving soon. Truly, like one of those situations this morning where I saw the Jeff Darlington tweet and was like, oh man, am I being like Jeff Darlingtoned or something?
Yeah.
Like what's happening right now?
Yeah,
but I mean,
BL's the #1.
I obviously would take the police's word with a grain of salt and not entirely rely on their narrative of what happened in this case. So it's nice that Darlington was there and actually could provide like what he saw with his own eyes. I'm curious what Scottie's point of view is, because there was also reports that other golfers had been let through that area earlier. So I'm not exactly sure. You know, we don't really know exactly what happened yet, and if he knew that the people in the yellow vests that were arresting him were police, or if they were just event staff or event security that were confused about where he was supposed to be going. So I kind of want to hear what he has to say, but just generally, What a start to a Friday morning. This is crazy.
I don't really look, no one could have ever assumed this. Even in a random scenario that I could have painted for you, this is the most unlikely golfer for this to happen to, but also one of the funniest physically, just an everyman appearance from Scott Scheffler. But I do think everyone's in agreement. Yeah, we understand the rules and we understand that normal folks headed to this golf course can't do this. Scottie Scheffler should be able to.
I want to be the fly on the wall when the officer when some other officer said to the officer, like one officer's feeling good, like, hey,
yeah,
someone tried to pull a fast one, I got him. He's in the back right now, and then they go over with their flashlight and they're just like, dude, like
one of the charges is assault on an officer.
That must have been the attachment.
Felony.
That must have been when the guy attached himself, and all of a sudden he's putting the officer in danger by moving with the. I'm assuming I
saw a report that the officer sustained minor injuries. Again, all of this we know in this country you take with a grain of salt, but Randy Scott's been on top of this, and he's been like Googling every single thing and every legal document that's already available for public consumption. I didn't trust the orange jumpsuit photo because I thought that would be too quick. I can't believe they actually took him out of his golf polo and put him in a jumpsuit for this photo. We have that forevermore.
You think he should get special treatment?
Yeah, Scottie Scheffler, yes, I do believe Scottie Scheffler should have gotten special
golf privilege?
treatment. Yeah, golf privilege, world number 1 privilege, green jacket privilege.
But if he was world number 2, put him in the jumpsuit? Where do you draw the line? Yeah.
Play today in the jumpsuit.
Yeah. You know that there were golfers in that traffic jam just waiting.
How does Matt Fitzpatrick fare if he ends up in this situation?
I'm picturing like a Fitzpatrick, like a couple cars back, like, oh, he's doing it. Let me see if it works.
Yeah.
Oh, not doing that. All right.
No, Putnam's there, 10-2. 10-2, just following the rules of the road.
Shane Lowry pulls up behind, like, hey, you got my man there. That's Scheffler.
Using my turning signal.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Does Daly have an exemption for this? If Daly's there, they got to take a photo.
He walked in.
Oh no, he used his golf cart.
He's the cop lights. He's like, I'm gonna pull off
Let
here.
me tell you,
and walk
I don't think John Daly's driving anywhere these days.
He's using a golf cart.
Will this be the last tournament that Scheffler drives himself to?
Yes.
Like, if you're Scheffler, I've always said to myself,
This will be the last tournament that he actually shows up to for the PGA.
How does not every rich person have a turtle? Your best friend from high school who didn't really get anything going. You're my friend. You're my assistant. You drive me everywhere. Like, how does everyone not have a turtle?
I have not heard an Entourage reference in so long that I thought you meant a pet turtle. So a little update, Mike, to your point. Michael Eaves just tweeted that a local attorney in Louisville says that, quote, normally you don't give someone being booked an orange jumpsuit.
What?
This is according to Michael Eaves.
Maybe at some point,
Scheffler
Scheffler embraces it and he's like, "This is my moment. This is huge.
He absolutely
put me in an orange thing. I need that shot."
Look, Scottie Scheffler doesn't have the greatest personality.
This is the coolest thing that's ever happened to him.
He really is the next Tiger. He's now entered the world of infamy right now, and you can just build this bad boy character. The dichotomy of his natural personality.
He should wear orange on every Friday now of a tournament.
Yeah.
So we'll bring you more news as this comes in, but there's not much more to this other than totally unexpected, really funny. No one directly associated with this story. Again, there was a fatal accident. Don't want to disregard that, but this is when social media is at its best, when there's just a funny story, and it seems as though no harm, no foul. So we'll figure out, and we'll update you as to whether or not Scottie Scheffler is actually playing in this tournament, because I still got that top 5 ticket, 5% max play.
I think this is a Zion situation though with Scheffler.
Oh,
this is good for Scottie.
This is
Scheffler.
great for him.
But it's putting people's heads in a pretzel, right?
It was a stressful thing it was probably like a stressful thing in his life for like a half hour. But then everything else, like, this is like
that's a special kind of privilege that I think the world number 1 kind of deserves. But just to your point, there's a lot of people right now really confused and glad that they didn't have to come up with an opinion on the fly. They can process this, and hopefully it all just goes away. Nothing's on anyone's record, so they don't actually have a stance on this. But if I was the Crown Prince, I would have posted bail. I would have absolutely done that.
I'm going to text Stugotz right now because I'm just curious his thoughts on this.
Stugotz is not awake. I saw those videos from the Sphere. There is no way Stugotz is awake.
Oh, he was at the Sphere last night? I didn't see this.
I mean, I don't know if he's not here. And Dead and Company were playing at the Sphere, and I saw the videos there. I assume Stugotz is there, and he is in no condition to actually speak with us right now.
Maybe the cops were live guys. Maybe that's what's going on here.
Well, like I said, we'll update you the more news that we get on this. I do want to talk about the NBA last night because the Denver Nuggets slept through a game 6. Yeah, game 6 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Timberwolves went up to a 2-0 lead, and then it looked like the Nuggets were going to run through them, and the Timberwolves put up more than a fight. And I want to turn your attention to a stat that StatMuse put out there about these Denver Nuggets with Jokic on them. They've never been held by any other team in NBA postseason history under 80 points outside of 3 times. And all 3 times, it's been a Rudy Gobert team that has done that. StatMuse put that out. They tagged Draymond Green in it, which I found very funny. But I do think Rudy Gobert, and we know what happened in Game 2 where he decided to skip that one, and the Timberwolves still won that. He decided to put family first. That's all cool. I do think Rudy Gobert is changing a bit of the narrative around him, not just with another depoy. That other depoy boosts what already probably was entering this season a Hall of Fame resume, but he has bothered Jokic and these Denver Nuggets in ways, and largely that team has too, Jeremy. We were speaking before. This isn't all on Rudy Gobert. They did have a win without Rudy Gobert, but we cannot discount that Rudy Gobert has done something to this Denver Nuggets team that no one else has been able to do, and that has really bothered them in ways quantifiably by a large gulf that we've never seen before.
The thing that Minnesota does really well is play team defense that's then anchored by Rudy Gobert. And so a lot of the times in this series where Denver has dominated, it's really been Jokic and Gobert going one-on-one. What was so impressive about the Timberwolves' defensive effort last night was schematically they sort of went back to what was working for them in Game 1 and primarily in Game 2, which is actually a little bit of Towns on Jokic as well, doubling Jokic the moment he started to post up. So not necessarily the moment he catches the basketball, but the moment he starts to post up to sort of make things get to later in the shot clock. And they're so long and physical as a team defensively. With Anthony Edwards at the point of attack, he shut down Jamal Murray last night, completely erased him from the game. And when you have that happening and you're forcing Jokic to be a playmaker, I think it was Porter and Murray were combined 3 for 13 from 3. That's how you eliminate this defense. But when you have Gobert there in the middle, that every moment someone else is driving to the hoop off a pick and roll with Jokic and Gobert's just standing there able to affect things, it really disrupts. And that is how you slow down the Nuggets. It's by putting Jokic in a position where he doesn't necessarily know, am I today the facilitator that he was in Game 5 or Game 4, or am I the scorer? Also what he was in Game 5. That's why it was so spectacular.
And what do we want him to be again?
Well, he's good
at everything. He's good at everything.
What he's great at is starting a game as, hey, I'm going to go score 14 points in the first quarter, and then when you make the adjustment to turn me into a playmaker, everybody else steps up and succeeds. Last night, their mix of different types of defense in that first run, I mean, they were down 9-2, Minnesota, and then they went on a 27-2 run, and then just kept it going from there.
Has there been a close game in this series?
There's been, I think, 1 game decided by single digits, maybe 2, but it is just a bunch of blowouts each way, despite the fact that it's competitive.
Yeah, it's we have a 7-game series with the lack of a memorable game. That's typically in basketball not how it goes. You usually have some close finishes. If the Miami Heat had one of these 7-game series way back in the day, pre-LeBron, against the Atlanta Hawks, where it was a 7-game series and every game was terrible. Just an awful, totally forgettable series. That's not the case here because you have reigning champions in the Denver Nuggets, champions that we haven't really seen tested in these ways. You'd like to see a close finish in Game 7, but the way that sport is going right now, I don't think we're actually going to get a good finish right now. Everyone's anticipating that the Nuggets go through here. I guess I also subscribe to the T-Wolves have to suffer a bit more.
I saw a graphic that at one point, obviously it was when they were down 0-2, they had a 0.8 percent chance of winning this series?
Yeah, I got in when they were down
0-2?
0-2.
Nice.
But in my defense, I had no idea they were down 0-2. I thought they were down 0-1 because that's how little I'm paying attention. No,
you were doing it. You weren't doing it.
I swear. It's just when you compare what's going on in hockey,
my God,
which
dude.
hasn't even had
Last night, dude.
which last night was great, but the hockey playoff hockey is great no matter what. But in recent years, this is probably one of the weaker NHL postseasons. There haven't been like these major epic overtime games, these huge changes in momentum. Although last night we started to see that, and last night was a game to remember. No, I'm living it. I'm being honest with you. Yeah, I go through my phases. And next year, if the Miami Heat improve a roster, or having a team that had no shot in it after being in the conversation for so long did probably contribute to my lack of interest in this. And that team not really caring for the regular season either contributed to this. But I'm telling you, the sport's just not doing anything for me. That's honest. It's not a bit. And if it's doing something for you, I'm not knocking you for it. I just have bandwidth. And there are other things right now that are taking my attention.
I do think this Game 7 between these two teams, when you talk about like your want of like dogs in a series, when
Dan
you have
wanting to see like a champion up against the ropes.
when you have Nikola Jokic, who last night didn't play the fourth quarter and just stood the entire fourth quarter on the sideline, hands behind his back, staring with a blank face at the action that's going on. Him as defending champion.
Was that like purposeful, you think?
Oh, yeah. I think he was just like really angry at what happened with his team and just standing there in disbelief, sort of trying to figure out what Minnesota's doing. And then you have Anthony Edwards as a guy who apparently after Game 5 spoke to, it was either a security guard or an usher at the game in Denver and said, we'll see you for Game 7. And then after the game, as they're dominating, is holding up 7 fingers saying, hey, we forced this Game 7. This is a juggernaut matchup going into Game 7. It's fun basketball.
And it's face of the league stuff and all that. But here's my experience watching these games. It's never got the main sound on. Hockey's got the main sound on. Doesn't matter, Panthers or not. I just find the hockey playoffs more compelling. But I got an eye on these games, and if there is a close finish, then that gets a main screen treatment. And there's only been once this entire postseason where I've shifted a game to the main screen, and it was that crazy finish with Anthony Davis falling into the Nuggets bench. That feels like several months ago. But that was a great finish. That was a great second half, and it caught my attention. And I think part of the reason why I'm not really that invested in the NBA postseason is I'm not getting the games to actually hook me in and see all the storylines. So what the NBA did so well in its postseasons was it was about drama. It was about those facials. It's not like hockey. It's not like the NFL. You can see these players emote. And I think having Jokic give you that lasting image and Anthony Edwards doing the stuff with the crowd, and that's legend-building stuff there, telling people at the Denver arena, I'll see you for a Game 7. That's stuff that does give this some juice. It's why I don't mind all the Knicks talk that our show has done, because the Knicks have actually provided the theater so far this postseason, and they've done so with some memorable games. They've probably played the more entertaining games out of the bunch, and I'm just starved for something that could stick its hooks into me and drag me into this sport. It's just been devoid of that, but here come the Knicks.
I would think the basketball that you get this weekend, when you start with Game 6 tonight between the Knicks and the Pacers, and then you have Game 7 over the weekend, these should be two incredible games.
If there's a Game 7.
Well, no, not that Game 7. I mean, well,
You
if
mean
there's a
the
Game 7. I'm talking
Timberwolves.
about the Timberwolves
Okay.
Game 7, not the Knicks Game 7 that may or may not happen. But with the Timberwolves and Nuggets, like you have, like you said, guys who are potentially faces of the league there. You also have Oklahoma City and Dallas, where you have a number 1 seed up against the ropes again against Luka, who's been spectacular. It's crazy to think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is actually older than Luka. But that's
what?
Yeah, that's how young the Thunder are as a team, that you see Luka doing what he's doing. It's fun.
It has been fun, Mike. I'm shocked. I've been locked in. There was a fart that galvanized an entire New York Knicks locker room. This has been the best NBA playoffs ever.
mean, what they said about Scheffler is true. No one could drive like him on tour. Not a single one. We learned that John Daly just withdrew, and he was citing a thumb injury, Roy. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I don't think it was a thumb injury. I think he just got his gimmick infringed on, and he realizes there's no point for him to be there anymore because there's a new tournament bad boy. Scottie Scheffler be thy name.
Shouldn't he technically be disqualified?
You would think that there was some sort of bylaw that you can't get arrested, but if you're the world number one, I mean, he's on a historic run right now, and this is the thing that just builds legend.
I feel like the world,
like you were saying, this is a Zion thing. This is great for him.
I feel like world number 98 is thinking, if this happened to me, I'd be arrested. I'd be in jail. The tournament would have never been delayed.
Taylor Gooch is like, what the fuck?
All right, so more on this story as it develops. Let's talk about some puck that happened last night with an eye on tonight. Great slate tonight, 2-game slate. 2 teams that are down 3-2 that staved off the elimination in Game 5, trying to force a Game 7.
Roy, you nervous?
No.
But we saw this scenario play out last night, a team that was down 3-0 in the Carolina Hurricanes. And I got to tell you, especially with how that game got off, I thought for sure we were seeing a Game 7 in Madison Square Garden. The New York Rangers showed some supreme guts over there for the Carolina Hurricanes. It might be time to really shake that roster up because you've now – this core's been together a little bit, and they've got some nice young players there too. They've got some questions to answer about Ginsel, who I don't know, guys. That I never saw it with Jake. I thought he was a byproduct of what was going on in Pittsburgh. I know he got frisky and involved in some plays, but you needed a talisman goal scorer for the Carolina Hurricanes. You would assume he'd be the guy playing on that line with Aho. He just wasn't him. And he just had these stretches where he'd totally disappear. And I don't know if they actually keep him because he didn't sign that extension. Hell, there's talk that he might find himself back in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, you've got questions to answer regarding your coach because Brendan Moore's been there for a long time, and now we're taking a step back. They got swept in the Eastern Conference Finals, although he didn't feel that way last year, and now a step shorter, and they're gone. So no matter what, we get an original 7 matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Man, you talking about the Rangers, though. They obviously did not start off well, but Chris Kreider, that was some 94 Rangers stuff right there. That was Mark Messier stuff.
9 real-time minutes that he had a natural Hattie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I think
crazy.
Roy, correct me if I'm wrong. Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky are the only other hockey players to have a hat trick in one quarter or one period.
Yes.
I think I heard that on the broadcast. That's insane
Yes.
company to be a part of.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And Chris Kreider was acting like it was no big deal.
His post-game interview, he was like, "Yeah, that was crazy."
Yeah, it was crazy. Like he acted like he'd been there before, which isn't really something that. Although he is historically one of the greatest Rangers of all time when you look at his point production, and he needed moments like that to kind of solidify it the way that Messier has talked about. It does kind of feel like 94 around the city of New York right now with the Knicks approaching their first Eastern Conference Finals since 2000. And I know that the Rangers have made it to the Stanley Cup Final. They played the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, lost.
That
That a famous Game
2014,
7
right,
overtime.
Roy?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Game 7, right?
Alec Martinez.
Oh, what? No, Williams.
Alec Martinez scored the game-winning,
Okay.
cup-winning goal in overtime.
Okay, yeah. So Williams didn't add
No,
to
not
his
just
legend in
Williams,
that
no.
one, but they haven't lifted the cup since 1994, famously, and it's got to be a hell of a time. I did see video that we're going to play right now of some Rangers fans celebrating their win, and we all remember what Toronto fans did.
This always works out well.
Yeah, we know what Toronto did last year after they got through Tampa into the second round. They chanted, "We won Florida." It didn't work out for them. Let's see what the Rangers fans chanted.
I don't know what you guys hear there, but what I hear there is, we want the easier team. We're scared of Florida. We're scared of Verhaeghe. I mean, what are they doing?
Bunch of cowards.
I don't think they're.
We are cowards.
I know that we got to
That
have
one
it
close.
We got to have a take on this. I think we can all openly acknowledge there's a bigger sports rivalry between New York and Boston than there is between New York and South Florida.
Did they not
We want
see
sunrise?
Did they not see the internet last year though? It's just I get it. I get why they're
I don't think they saw the internet last year. I think that we're internalizing Toronto Maple Leafs fans chanting "We want Florida."
they didn't buy the shirts.
and we're vastly overestimating the reach of that one thing that irked us.
Everyone was talking about it.
I don't.
Everyone was talking about
Yeah.
it. No, can we look at? I don't want to overlook and assume the Panthers are going to win this, but can we look at this from the Panthers' perspective, the Rangers-Carolina series? Because I think Carolina coming back from 3-0, down 3-0 to win that series, that momentum would have been hard to overcome. I actually think this works out for Boston or Florida. The Rangers winning, their momentum now, yes, you have momentum from last night's game, but I think if Carolina wins that series coming back down 3-0, I think that momentum is hard for either of these teams to overcome.
I told myself I wasn't going to look ahead because you got to kill the Boston Bruins tonight. Brad Marchand is coming back. That's going to be an electric barn over there. Barn, by the way, that the Florida Panthers have won 4 straight.
Yeah.
They're 4-0 in their last 4, going for 5 on the trot. They're very comfortable on the road.
And Ryan Lomberg is probably going to be back in the lineup.
I saw reports that Cousins and Lomberg are both going to be back in the lineup
Just
right
making
now.
switches?
So
Yeah.
Lorenz,
Been asking for it.
that means Lorenz is gone.
Pozo is not going to be in the lineup.
Poso should be in the lineup.
I would think Lorenz is the only one staying, right? And it would be Okposo and who else has been on that fourth line?
so-
Stenlin. Wait,
it's
no,
not
so it would
pronounced
be Lorenz.
Okposo, right? Because I always hear people just go Oposo. Like the K is almost silent.
OKPOSO.
I understand
right?
where I understand that there's a K in
It'd
it,
be Opozo.
but I just never hear the K sound being
I don't-
pronounced
right.
with his name. But he was practicing with the first line yesterday, and he goes scratching. I'm not necessarily with that big body. This is a former first liner in the league. He has a pretty huge assist in this series already. He's been playing pretty well, although a lot of Panther fans have an affinity for Ryan Lomberg and Nick Cousins. He gets under people's skin. I do like that Cousins is out there. I'd rather Oposo than Ryan Lomberg in this scenario.
You go Cousins over Lomberg? I'm with you
Yeah.
on Oposo, but I'd rather see Lomberg over Cousins.
I think Cousins.
We are getting in the weeds.
Well, last year he had some big goals, so
Yeah.
obviously Cousins would be
Well,
in there.
everyone
Getting the
remembers.
sawgrass.
Everyone remembers Lomberg's winner that forced a Game 5 against Tampa Bay. They staved off the elimination in overtime. It was an unlikely game winner. Then they go on to force the Game 6, and they lose in 6 to Tampa. But I think Cousins is probably the more consistent goal-scoring threat of the two, and I think he's a bigger agitator. I saw Brad Marchand. I don't know if we have video of that. Brad Marchand spoke to the media, and there was a kind of an honor amongst thieves. I don't think that the takeaway from the media from Brad Marchand's comments, which is basically like, look, you try to get an advantage trying to hurt a player here. He said the quiet part out loud, but I think that it was a little misinterpreted because I kind of read between the lines there that he made a rush on an injured player. He was trying to get one
that was
in
gonna
on
be a
Sam
late hit.
Bennett.
That was going to be a late hit.
Here's my whole thing on Sam Bennett. Did he get a rabbit punch in on Brad Marchand? Yes. Did Brad Marchand go in for a dirty hit and he miscalculated? Maybe he was a little loopy beforehand. Yeah. Sam Bennett saw that happening in slow motion and decided, well, if this guy's going to miss me, might as well get my shot in. I don't think that punch concussed him.
No, it was the hit on Stenlin.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I think all of this has been overstated, and all of this has really stemmed from Game 2, where Jim Montgomery realized, oh shit, I got nothing against these guys. Let's just muck it up. And then Pasa had to cash a check for Pat Maroon, and the Panthers responded in kind. Now, if you're a Boston Bruins fan, what I personally like is finally they're starting to talk about winning hockey games and things that they can do on the ice that is not just gooning it up over there to actually try to win this game. And it seems as though the series has settled down and it could stop being this just crazy, wacky narrative over there. I do expect the Florida Panthers to win this game. If they don't, I understand everyone wants to get nervous. Headed into that Game 7, I won't be nervous. But if in that Game 7 the Bruins pull ahead early,
then I'll be nervous.
Then I'll be nervous. But I do think that the Florida Panthers are the much more talented team.
I'll wait until the third period to get
the
nervous.
much maligned Morgan Geekie is not a top line center. Like we were saying it the other day, Lundell would be the clear number one center on this Bruins team. I just don't think the Bruins are all that good. I think they've overachieved. I think Jim Montgomery has done a tremendous job throughout the regular season. I question some of his tactics in the postseason, but look, he's gotten this thing to 6. They're not going to create quality chances on their own all that often. You play a clean game. You don't come out sleepwalking. And you should be able to beat this team. You're a class above them.
And I don't expect the Boston Bruins defense to do what they did in Game 5 either. I mean, they're not going to hold the Panthers to as little shots as they did.
They've
in the
done it twice.
first period.
Roy, they've done it twice.
Not this time. I don't think they're going to end up doing it this time.
Well, I understand you don't want it, but they've shown you fairly recently. And I don't think I saw people saying, well, we got goalied. No, we didn't. Swayman, we didn't get goalied in game 1. We didn't get goalied in game 5. Those were clean looks that Swayman stopped.
Game 5 felt kind of like he
wasn't making all-world saves. Like, he makes a handful of saves. That's the NHL. Bob was a better goalie on the night, I felt.
We stick with Bob, right? This game, obviously.
Yeah.
The Rangers went with the backup to start last night, but
yeah, both teams are going to stick with their goalies.
Igor played.
Didn't they start?
No, Shesterkin was there.
Yeah, Shesterkin. Yeah, he plays. Yeah,
I know he was in late.
do
They
the
didn't
backup.
put him in. My bad. That's my bad.
No, they didn't do the backup. You don't take Igor Shesterkin.
That's why I was
right
like,
now.
I thought they did. My bad.
Yeah.
That's my
If
fault.
we are looking ahead, though, I to your point, if Carolina found a way to win a game 7 that they had forced from being down 3-0, that's a lot of momentum that you're running up against, and that is a galvanized unit. However, aside from that stuff, all that intangible stuff, I do think that Carolina probably presented a trickier matchup for the Florida Panthers in the Eastern Conference Finals, just because we know that those games would be in the mud, and those would probably be 1-goal differential type games, whereas even though there's more skill talent on the New York Rangers, and they found a way with these defensive pairings with their their nice rotation, have a puck mover on every defensive line, a lot like the Panthers in that they're not leaning on a defensive unit more than others, so all of these guys remain fresh. They got a really good goalie in Shesterkin, and certainly a better goalie than Carolina had, better goalie situation there, but I actually would favor the New York matchup over Carolina. That's not me calling my shot. I think I've called it several weeks ago in that I think that this team here in Florida is as good a chance as this market's ever had to lift the Stanley Cup. With an eye over to the Western Conference, boy, that Dallas team is deep.
Yeah.
Real deep. Although they approach things a different way. They leave some guys on the ice a little long. When you have when you have Miro over there, I understand. But 2 big pivotal game 6s. I wanted to go to TD Garden tonight because I have a feeling the Panthers walk out of that building with that dub, but knowing that it's a Rangers, I got to save for that game time budget in the next round because my ass will most definitely be in MSG.
What are you thinking? Game 5, Game 2, Game 1? What are you thinking?
It depends on the schedule.
Yeah, it's gonna see.
Well,
Elimination game, definitely.
let's eliminate Morgan Geeky tonight.
That's true.
Yeah.
Caught our breath to update ourselves on some memes and some breaking news. Jess, you've been on the MacBook the entire time seeing all this news roll in. What's the latest?
Well, according to Mark Schlabach from ESPN, Scheffler faces charges of second-degree assault of a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, reckless driving, and disregarding traffic signals from an officer directing traffic. The assault charge is a felony. The others are misdemeanors, and he was released at 8:40 a.m. Eastern and headed to Valhalla. He arrived less than an hour before he was scheduled to tee off at 10:08 a.m. Eastern. So his tee time, if you are watching this live, is in about 20 minutes.
I got to tell you, this is generally my experience. I'm not arrested, but in terms of like a mad dash to the course to make my tee time, this is pretty on brand for just having a kid and trying to get away for a couple of holes.
Probably forgot his golf shoes, had to go back.
Had to go back, yeah. But outside of the arrest, this is
today, Chris. I'm sorry, you are in the golfiest outfit.
I am playing golf today.
Okay.
I want to turn my attention real quick back to this Panther Bruins series a little bit because I was alerted to a clip that
it's glorious.
All right, so explain to me what's going to happen in this clip.
So it's Bill Simmons, and he's a Bruins fan, so he's going to go after Florida fans here. So he's just kind of trolling South Florida fans. And if you know, should we say on the front end where we play?
No.
Okay.
No.
So he's talking about South Florida fans, and he's trolling us about our lack of hockey knowledge.
Florida fans, settle down. You didn't know what hockey was until like 1993. You literally didn't have hockey. You've never won a cup. The average person who follows sports has no idea what city you're attached to. You're the Florida Panthers. Are you in Jacksonville? Are you in Orlando? Are you in Palm Beach? Nobody knows. The answer is Miami. But literally, most people don't know that.
Bill?
It's performance art right there.
I mean, does he know? Is he trolling?
Keeper of the cup, Bill Simmons. Thank you for explaining hockey to me. No, they play in Sunrise, which is in Broward County.
It's Miami, by the way.
It's a good 45-minute drive away from me in Miami-Dade County.
Like, is he trolling us and we're falling for it?
Not.
No, see, at the turn of the century, they actually moved out of the Miami Arena. Celine Dion christened the National Car Rental Center, and they've been playing there for the vast majority of their franchise's history.
In fact, they play so far away from Miami that if the Rangers and the Panthers do face off in the Eastern Conference Finals, I will be more likely to attend a game at MSG than drive to Sunrise.
Okay, New England Patriots. Yeah. Where the fuck is New England?
Yeah, okay. Like, it's Maine, by the way. And Jess, you didn't have to say. We know that you're going to go to Madison Square Garden for this series.
Foxborough.
We know that this is turning into a New York trip. Lehman's a big Rangers guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh my. And he's a Knicks guy.
It's been a big month for us. We have been locked in to all of my fake favorite teams.
So you're not going to back the Panthers here. We thought we had you. I know you're a Blackhawks gal.
If they play the Bruins, I'm pro Panthers, and I will be on the victory parade if they win the Stanley Cup. Mark my words.
All right, but if they go through the Rangers,
yeah,
I mean, I love that you're supporting Lehman in this way, and that you're going to fake being a Rangers fan, and it's going to be terrible if we have to go through you. Really, it is. But I have no doubt that you'll find yourself on that. It'd probably be on the river, right? It'd be a Las Olas river type of parade.
The Intercoastal.
Look at us planning a parade already.
I want to be on there too. Ro.
It's going to be like where they did all the All-Star stuff. They're going to set up a big. I'm on the planning committee. I'm getting involved.
It's weird that they would do it in Broward County, considering the team plays in Miami, Florida. By the way, but yeah,
just chef's kiss that sound.
I understand, and I would.
But don't be condescending if you don't know where we play.
Look, this kind of
why'd you bring up that specific point? No one was asking about where we specifically play. You decided to bring that part up.
I understand we're the ugly stepchild of hockey. It's been this way for us since 1942.
We're the new guy.
Since 1942, as an Original Seven franchise, we've always kind of been considered, not good enough, not elite enough to be considered in that group. And I got to say, the national media coverage of this, and I understand a lot of their points, Florida Panthers fans are a little annoyed. Like anybody, scratching to win their first cup, trying to be recognized by the national media elite, trying to be something more than a novelty.
And we're actually good this year, so we're cocky.
Earn respect. I understand where it all comes from, and we play the part. We're agitators, and we kind of take on that team identity. But I do think that there is a lot of both going on right now. The coverage of the Florida Panthers is pretty asinine, and that is just a chef's kiss encapsulation of how dismissive people are.
It's Miami, by the way.
It's Miami, by the way. Hopefully we can dispatch of the Boston Bruins tonight. But if it's not tonight, breathe. So the New York Rangers, not that series prices are any indication on how these things go. It's hockey. Biscuit takes weird bounces and deflections. But Florida is entering tonight minus 750 to win this series. They have 2 opportunities to do so. If they fail tonight, I understand. You start seeing ghosts. Are we going to blow a 3-1 after Boston blew a 3-1? I just hang my hat on Florida's quality. There is a talent gap here, man.
But couldn't they have said that last year?
Exactly the same approach.
Like the talent,
more likely than not.
Because of the season they had last year.
I think Boston was a bit more talented than they were than they certainly are this year, because they had guys like Krejci and Bergeron.
And defensively, we hadn't come into what we are now. We were good. We were better defensively last year.
We went in as an 8 seed, but I think that series proved, and it wasn't a fluke, by the way. The Panthers went on to make a run all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Florida had more talent last year than the Boston Bruins.
I just got scared, though. The idea, like, we did this to them last year. I hadn't really thought about that part of it.
Revenge?
Yeah. We're still good.
Redemption?
I'll snap out of it. I'm back. We're good.
Do we have any other developments on the Scottie Scheffler front? Any other?
Well, he made a statement to Jeff Darlington just now. This is breaking.
He's like, Darlington,
that's my
you
guy.
were there for me. I'm gonna. You
were
this
my
statement.
first call.
Where's Darlington? Come here. And he whispers it.
He said, "This morning I was proceeding as directed by police officers. It was a very chaotic situation, understandably so, considering the tragic accident that had occurred earlier, and there was a big misunderstanding of what I thought I was being asked to do. I never intended to disregard any of the instructions. I'm hopeful to put this to the side and focus on golf today. Of course, all of us involved in the tournament express our deepest sympathies to the family of the man who passed away in the earlier accident this morning. It truly puts everything into perspective."
That is an A+ statement from Scottie Scheffler.
That was all whispered into Darlington's ear.
Yeah, do not bypass the tragedy that happened. Don't go at.
This morning, I was proceeding as directed by police officers.
Don't go at the police department.
It was a very chaotic situation.
Just play it straight, Scotty, and this goes off. It gets expunged.
Understandably so, considering the tragic accident that had occurred earlier. There was a big misunderstanding of what I thought I was being asked to do.
We get to wear the shirts at the Waste Management Open with your face on it while you're wearing the orange jumpsuit.
I did have to make sure, again, this was Jeff Darlington, because this is very confusing on the internet. But probably our final development for the morning, I would guess, on the situation.
Chris, you made yourself bleed this morning.
Oh, my God. In one of the dumbest ways you could possibly do it.
You alluded that you made yourself bleed, but why was it a dumb way?
Because I was, so I like on a Friday, nice little, I stop at a local beverage store, get a nice little iced tea. It's a little treat yourself on a Friday.
You are definitely golfing today.
Yeah. But so I was like, all right, let me get a little iced tea. So I have the standard, you get the drink, put it in the cup holder. I'm in my car, grab the straw, do the move, bang the straw down on like the middle console. Straw goes into the mouth because the top end popped out of the paper. I bite the straw. So now the straw is like in my mouth. I crumble up wrapping paper, toss it into the cup holder just, momentarily. And as the hand, like my sleepy was up till 1 a.m. watching hockey hand, flies back to my mouth to grab the straw to put in said drink, I jam the straw like into my throat. I come in contact
your
with
throat?
Yeah, I'm telling you. So this straw, all of a sudden I'm like gagging. And it could be a little sharp. It's like plastic. Like,
that woke you up.
This wasn't one of these paper straws. And I like felt the little like flap of like on my throat. And all of a sudden I opened my mouth in my mirror.
Uvula?
Like right near my tonsil. Like my tonsil was red. I opened my mouth and all of a sudden I'm like shoving a napkin into my throat to like as gauze, and I'm like gagging on it.
Your throat was bleeding?
For a split second, I'm like, is this a serious cut? Am I like gushing? Like I'm like,
that's gonna turn into a sore. You're gonna have a rough weekend.
Luckily, it already seems to have healed. Like us Cody's, like my dad, his face healed in like a week.
Let me look in there. I got my flashlight.
Us Cody's are known
You're
for
more than welcome to look in here,
regenerative. Easy for me to say.
I can get a tampon for you.
He's Wolverine.
It was
I'm gonna just give up.
I had about 10 seconds of, do I need to go to the hospital? But I'm fine. I'm here. And it just got me thinking, I'm like laughing at myself. I'm like, you freaking idiot. Like I wish I had an instant replay of like just like my stupid hand.
Wish you had a Russian dashboard cam.
But it's just like, does anyone have that beat in terms of like this? I made myself bleed and I'm an idiot.
Jess has it.
I have a really stupid self-injury that I did. It was like 2018, I want to say. So it was like New Year's Day, and Ryan Nanny was being the Bloomin' Onion mascot for the Outback Bowl that day. And it was like a 1 p.m. kickoff or something like that. And so I had like gone out the night before on New Year's Eve, and I was like a little out of it, a little hungover, a little tired. And I went upstairs to get my laptop and bring it down so I could just like lay on the floor and watch the Outback Bowl. And I,
as one would do,
did it. I just was moving too quickly for the state of mind I was in, and I fell down the stairs, like all the way down a staircase, like 13 steps, on my ass.
Jesus.
Banged my elbow like into the wall. I wasn't bleeding that bad, but like it hurt so bad, and I thought I broke my arm and I was gonna need to go to urgent care. So I just proceeded to lay on the floor and watch the Outback Bowl and watch my boss dance around the field in a Bloomin' Onion outfit while I just thought about how stupid I was. Like, I'm watching
Dude, that's
Ryan
scary
Manny.
though. I think mine's dumber.
He's in a Bloomin' Onion outfit, and I feel like the dumbass. Like, it was a terrible New Year's Day.
Roy, you got one?
Yeah, I was playing street football, and playing street football is dumb enough. And I caught a pass, and the tip of my shoe hit the street. And I felt there was a little pain there or whatever. So we were done with the game, and I still felt this pain.
Took your shoe off.
Took the shoe off. Nail was black.
Ooh.
Just black.
Yeah, but
I'm winning
you
still
got,
so
you
far.
got injured doing something that you could potentially get injured in. That doesn't really count.
I mean, it's stupid. It's stupid to actually do that.
You got hurt playing sports.
Okay, sure.
I was the worst time I made myself bleed was podcasting. I had to
Chris,
go.
we might have found the winner.
I went to Marlins Media Day last year and was doing interviews with all of the guys. And then at the end of it, we're packing up everything. I'm having a debriefing conversation. I think it was with Jazz. We're talking. It all kind of starts winding down. And my podcast bag is essentially like a hard suitcase that has a handle that you can drag it everywhere. And I left the handle up. And so when I went to go grab XLR cable that was sitting on the ground, I just very quickly went to the ground and banged right above my eye on that handle and started gushing blood to where they had to take me into the trainer's room at Lone Depot Park.
Chris is still winning, I think.
Chris is still leading.
It's Dunkin',
I gagged
right?
on my straw, guys.
The fact that it's Dunkin' iced tea at like 6:30 in the morning also is, I feel like it makes it worse somehow.
Coming up next, I'll detail how I received stitches because I was afraid of a bird. and just saw someone recreate the OJ chase, but Scottie Scheffler was in a golf cart. This is when the internet's at its best, when it's harmless.
I saw Johnny Cochran. If he's next on the tee, he must be set free meme this morning.
There was another one that Scottie Scheffler tried that in a small town. I bled one time because I was leaving my house going to high school. I was going to drive myself to high school, and from across the street, there was a very aggressive bird. And this is where my fear of birds was born.
You have a fear of birds?
I have a fear of birds.
Him and Dwayne Wade.
And it stems from this.
All birds?
Yeah, I don't like birds.
Like, do ducks count?
Ducks, I'm fine with.
Chickens?
Like, if I see a bird and it's stationary, we're good. I don't
All
like.
birds?
I'm not like a guest on the Maury show. Like I can tough it out and be a tough guy around birds. When birds start flying around me, hate that. So I was leaving my house. I was like 16 years old. And this bird from across the street just starts dive bombing at me. Very confusing. I guess it had a nest that it was protecting somewhere nearby. But I was getting dive bombed from across the street.
Sorry for laughing. It's just a funny visual.
No,
It's terrifying. That happened to me once. I got attacked by a goose. What?
And geese are really scary when they start making those noises, and they're bigger.
Yeah.
This
I
wasn't
lived,
a very.
but it was not.
Was it flying?
Yeah, it was dive bombing me.
That is really scary. This was not a big bird at all. This was, standard, maybe hand and a half length.
Like a pigeon, seagull. What are we
No,
talking?
it was just like
swallow, sparrow,
probably.
Crow?
No, I would say it looked like probably the size of a mockingbird, but it was like gray. I didn't get a good. I tried to go to the police department and sketch it out. The assailant escaped.
Arrest the bird.
So this bird starts dive bombing me, and I don't know what's happening. This is the last thing I expected in that morning, being groggy, trying to walk to my Scion TC. And
A classic.
Yeah, a classic high school car. And I duck. And in Miami-Dade County, I was living in Sweetwater at the time. I don't know, in the 80s, it was really like in vogue to have these spiked fences outside of your home. And so I had a gate.
You went to high
house.
school in the 80s.
No. The house was constructed in the 80s. And so, like, in Sweetwater, people know what I'm talking about. They have these, like, gates that are spiked, and it was just very in fashion. So I was living in a house like that at the time. I come down chin first on that spike as I'm disoriented, trying to avoid this bird that was dive bombing me. I know I'm bleeding. I know it's a lot of blood. I run inside the house, and I put a little something on it, and I have like this makeshift Band-Aid as I drive myself to school. I get to school, and I didn't realize that my shirt was covered in blood. And it was the only trip that I ever made to a school. I didn't even know that Florida Christian had a school nurse at the time. But, like, they made me go see a nurse, and I got stitched up right then and there because I busted my chin wide. I split my chin wide open trying to avoid a bird. So that's the dumbest way. I still think that Chris Cody has
Judges?
me beat.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll collect my prize.
I fell down the stairs.
Yours is like the most dangerous. You win the most dangerous because that's terrifying.
I was trying to watch the Outback Bowl.
That's the part is
Podcast.
funny.
Yeah.
That part is funny.
And the nice little nugget of Ryan Nanny. Roy, you got hurt playing sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't. I have a million.
You
Sports
said you had a couple.
injury stories.
Yeah. The other one, I was washing dishes, and I had a big old meat knife, right, for slicing and whatnot, and sliced right through the sponge and right through my finger.
Why didn't you go with that one?
I thought
You got turf toe.
You always got to go away.
well, yeah, I got turf toe. It was street
Toe.
football, and that's why it was dumb.
You always got to go
cars.
blade out, man.
Yeah. Well, I
Kugler
like
got
both
me
sides.
this sponge that's like it's like this, and it has bristles in the middle, and it's plastic.
Is it the smiley
So
face
you
one
can-
that was on
no,
Shark Tank?
I love Scrub Daddy
Yeah.
and Scrub Mommy.
Fire.
Respect to Scrub Mommy too. She's two-sided.
Respectfully.
The sponge thing that Kugler got me is like a plastic thing. You could put the knife blade in it, and then it won't go through and cut you. It's a very good invention.
I cook a lot in my home, and I have this board that I put to slice veggies and whatnot, and I get mad nervous because I always think today is going to be the day that I slice my hand. It's already happened. Thankfully, it wasn't like the gash where I thought I'd just get cut down to the bone. But I want to talk a little bit more about Harrison Butker. I try to avoid this discourse, and the reason why I try to avoid this Harrison Butker one is because, number one, I think it's easy, and I've been through these things before where I get loud in front of a microphone and I just get aggregated by bad faith right-wing news aggregators. I did that with the UFC, and look, for all the complaints about cancel culture, the only ones that have really shown that they can actually do anything are conservatives when it comes to canceling, be it a beer or a department store. Like, I'm just exhausted, and I don't want you in my mentions. But at the same time, I'm not going to have a double standard. So when the UFC had very similar comments, and I went in front of that microphone and I challenged Dana White or Jimmy Pitaro to do something about it, because this is, granted, it's a bit of a different situation. Harrison Butker is doing this on his own time, and he's speaking at a college, and he's speaking it to certainly the audience that it's intended for. Who was it that told me that his mother is actually a fairly accomplished scientist?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right. Harrison Butker, who, by the way, quite predictably has the number one selling jersey in the NFL right now, does this. So it's not at a press conference where there's a bunch of media at, but I'm not going to make any more excuses. I do think that someone with the league, and maybe they have put out a statement, but I do think that the league and its partners should come out and say that this is rhetoric from a bygone era and it wasn't all right back then, about women staying in the kitchen, and just very misogynistic statements from Harrison Butker. And I'm not just doing the thing where this is a kicker. I'd expect them to come out and say anything about any player, and this seems like a pretty easy spot, especially when you consider the things that he was saying.
The league's chief diversity and inclusion officer, senior vice president Jonathan Bean, did put out a statement. It said Harrison Butker gave a speech in his personal capacity. His views are not those of the NFL as an organization. The NFL is steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger.
I do think that the conservative strategy in bucking up against this stuff so much is working, because I myself did the math. I'm like, this is exhausting. I don't want to do this anymore. But I do think that it should go a couple tiers above the director of inclusion over at the NFL. I would like to hear Roger Goodell weigh in on this. And we don't have a media day coming up soon for the Kansas City Chiefs, but Patrick Mahomes has recent media availabilities. Patrick Mahomes owns a women's professional soccer team. We all know Travis Kelce's standing in the pop culture world right now and who he's dating. Certainly an icon when it comes to women being empowered. So I do hope that the teammates and the Chiefs particularly take the opportunity to come out and say something along those lines. Just a public acknowledgement that this is not great. This is bad stuff. This is poor rhetoric and a poor message. And certainly it's not something that Patrick Mahomes believes in. I know it's not something that Travis Kelce believes in. So why not take a fairly easy stand in saying, no, women don't belong in the kitchen. Homemaker is not the dream job.
It's so amazing that when he said the word homemaker, he started tearing up, as if that were this just truly emotional, incredible moment. I mean, it was so remarkable to hear this man quote Taylor Swift in this speech. That's the part that's so crazy too, is like he somehow found this to be empowering for women. Like I don't understand what his mindset was here. It's so outdated.
I'm surprised Travis Kelce hasn't already gone the Will Smith route of saying, keep my girlfriend's name out of your mouth.
Well, he did invoke a Taylor Swift lyric, right?
Yeah, he did.
I'm drafting him first overall in my fantasy league next year.
Let my boy cook. I really don't know what they're doing with their special teams unit. And all of this landed, I think, on Matt Ariza's birthday. They put out a graphic.
Yeah, I think that was yesterday.
Just to kind of remind everybody that their special teams unit, thankfully we don't see them all that often in Kansas City. But like I said, I would like, and I know that Patrick Mahomes, he's played this game in the public eye quite deftly. You know, he's been asked about his political stances, and he's very much team do your own research, and he won't make waves there. But this one's a fairly easy one. And,
yeah.
And I would like to see them take the opportunity to make this one an easy one.
There was an article written by Jessica Valenti, who does a lot of reporting on abortion in the United States, which was basically saying that, like, Harrison Butker's comments are the law in this country now. Like, he went against everything that has now been disbanded since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So Yeah, I mean, it may be an easy stance for them to say something along those lines about the comments about like women having careers, but essentially like that has been co-signed by the Supreme Court.
Well, not to get overly political, because I was at a rock concert and I was watching Limp Bizkit. Not that I have like high expectations for Fred Durst, but Fred Durst was going on the microphone. He's like, "Man, I really hope we get a new president." Truth be told, I don't know which one he was talking about. He could have been talking about the dude whose brain was getting eaten by a worm, or the guy that was already president. But he took this, and, you know, there was claps and some people that were just genuinely confused that Fred Durst decided to inject politics into this concert. But I don't want to lose sight of when people just say, we need a change, we need a new president, and they cite other things, it's very easy to lose sight of what is actually on the ballot when it comes to how they are calling their shot and making it their main platform to kind of reset the timeline and go back a couple of decades, especially when it comes to women's rights. So I don't want to ignore that fact. There are very important things on the ballot, and just because there's a name attached that you may feel some kind of way about doesn't mean you should overlook it.
Updating our story of the day, Scheffler is on the tee box right now. Wow. I'm seeing Marty Smith like kind of trailing him. Do you think Marty is a little jealous of Jeff Darlington today?
That was right place, right time.
Yeah.
That was like Sedano walking in front of LeBron's house and spotting moving trucks. That is...
I just picture Marty like, damn, man. I overslept by a half hour. I missed it.
That is one of the first people I'd want to see leaving prison, though. Well, a holding cell. He wasn't...
What are the dad jokes being said by the other golfers? Like, hey, watch out. Ooh, convict walking by. Like,
yeah,
what are
there's
got to be some really bad jokes being said to him right now.
Now, Scheffler is presently standing under an umbrella. I thought he was just going through his phones liking memes, but he is really, really looking at that card.
He's got to be distracted today. Like, he's got to play like shit today. I would take the over on whatever the over-under is on his score today, because golf is such a game of concentration. His mind has to be racing through this of just like, what happened today?
I can't
what
wait.
A weird day.
What happens if he actually has an amazing round? And this is a tale of heroism.
I don't know. I feel like golf is one of the sports where players can like lock it. The best players can like lock it in the most. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of hoping for him to win this whole thing now, because I want to see what Nance says. That's been a meme.
Ain't got money on it.
Yeah. I want to see how this thing is called, and I want to see like generally how people conflate these two things, their love of golf and also backing the blue. This is really putting people in a blender at the moment.
Apparently, when Scheffler made his way back in, Marty Smith did ask him for comment, and his response was, "Love you, Marty." So at least Marty Smith got his moment as well, not just Jeff Darlington.
He should Dominic Mysterio this thing and show up in cuffs with his ankles also cuffed up. Just really lean in. I mean, the
ones
caddy,
that he can break, like they're fake ones, like kids ones. So he walks up, chant, and then he just like busts out.
Is this one of those tournaments where the caddies wear a white jumpsuit? Because if so, just change the color on the caddies jumpsuit. What a fascinating thing to happen to a sport that is not at all that fascinating.
I did not have us spending this much time on golf.
No.
Stugotz is gone, and we've spent the most time on golf that we've probably spent in years.
Still no comment from Stugotz.
Cannonball.
You're not gonna have a comment from that guy for the next like week and a half, given some of the videos that I saw. Yeah, no, it's cool. They jam and there's stuff on a really big screen.
To segue completely here, have you guys talked about this portal thing that opened up? Not the transfer portal, the portal that opened up between
Dublin and
New York, where there was
closed
it's
now,
like an art installation. Mm-hmm. Yes, it has since been closed, tragically. It was an art installation where you could live stream yourself to people in real time in Dublin, and
everyone had to handle this with maturity, probably. Right?
Why Dublin? Has anyone said like why?
I'm actually not exactly sure. I will look into it, but people were, waving and smiling and saying hi, and then they started doing other things in front of this portal. And a video went viral of a woman flashing her breasts in front of it.
Because of course.
Then soon thereafter, it was shut down. But, we're not going to blur that.
Probably should.
Fascinating social experiment. to have done this in two of, I think, probably the drunkest cities in the world to do this in.
Is this being done from New York to Dublin, or is this from Dublin being done to New York?
I think that was in Dublin.
Okay.
That didn't look like Times Square.
Why did we put that video?
The preview I saw was more of a from behind, and we definitely had a side shot there for a second. Sorry about that.
Let's blur that in post, folks. So, can we reopen this portal though? And if so, can we put Dabo Swinney in New York City so we can finally have a portal dub?
Coaches can transfer whenever they want, so the portal should really always be open.
Do we have this sound from Dabo about the transfer portal? So outside of military academies, Clemson is the only school to not land a recruit from the transfer portal as of right now. They can still, there's still time for them to do so. I gotta say, this isn't actually all that surprising, which is shocking when they're in the conversation with the service academies. But here's Dabo kind of explaining why.
That's the other part of it. And honestly, every player is technically a transfer. You know, we just signed a whole class of guys transferring from high school. So we like our guys. We like our starters.
Oh, Dabo colored his hair.
Oh,
yeah, that's what you saw.
Yeah, no,
I didn't notice.
Yeah,
You see him wearing a cap.
Throw the still up there one more time. This dude definitely dyed his hair fairly recently.
It's a great equivocation between like high schoolers transferring into college versus college players transferring
Technically,
in the portal.
everyone's transferring.
Now, why don't you ask me how many of your kids are transferring to the kingdom of God? Because all our guys are portaling into heaven.
He already did the God's NIL thing, so I feel like that's not far off.
Yeah.
It is weird though. Like they've lost transfers. Since the season
I saw
ended.
some of his reasoning was, truth be told, most of these guys in the portal aren't good enough to play for, I don't know, I'm kind of turning
Little
into
Clemson,
George W.
yeah.
Bush, but these guys aren't good enough to be playing at Clemson. I saw who your RB1 was last year. Yeah, no, some of these guys are good enough to transfer to
Will
Clemson.
Shipley?
Yeah, he's a good little player. Good little player.
I just can't believe that his tactic with this is, I'm just going to be stubborn.
It's
like
just
everyone
weird.
else is kind
You
of
can't
buying
believe
in,
that
like,
with Dabo?
No, but I can. But it's just like, dude, like
It's not sustainable, and I think this is my take on it. You know how they closed the season out strong, and Dabo took that as an opportunity to give a big FU to everybody that was kind of doubting them. He would never say FU, just for the record. I understand he's a good man. But I think that little mini run at the end of the season last year is going to end up setting them back. There's just vibes. And I'll say this, Jim Larinaga, the way that he's been talking about the transfer portal, and I know college basketball is bonkers, that also makes me a little bit nervous. You're seeing a lot of coaches just step away from the sport. Katie Meyer did too. A lot of that is because the current climate. This is all crazy. And I do think that you have to be cut a certain way to really excel here. Dabo's been plenty successful with a different set of rules. And you have to be concerned with the kind of quotes that leave his mouth, because that is not how I think you actually gain an advantage in these streets these days.
It is interesting because I was talking about this with one of my friends the other day. There was a CBS, their college football guys all did like a ranking of the best college football coaches, and Dabo was pretty high up, like top 3 in most rankings, which totally makes sense. He's won multiple national championships, Heisman Trophy winners. Like, he has done a phenomenal job at Clemson, and no one ever expected him to do that when he was hired. So it's hard to take him out of like the top 5. But since the transfer portal era and the NIL era started, their team, and since he lost Brett Venables, frankly, his team hasn't been as good. So it's just, it's like hard to compare the two different eras as distinct things for him, because this is one area where I think he's gotten a lot of criticism, because if you watched Florida State play last year, a lot of their transfers made immediate impact and put them in a national title conversation, whereas Clemson could have used a couple guys like that.
I think to be uber successful, and granted there's some successful programs that kind of predate NIL and they're still riding that wave. And once you start stacking classes, that's sustainable for a while. I think you need to be kind of everywhere. You have to check all the boxes. And I think you have to have a certain mental makeup to really excel in what is presently this Wild West. Down here in South Florida, when it comes to approach, when it comes to talent acquisition, when it comes to grinding, I think we have we check a lot of the boxes there. When it comes to game management, very clearly from last year, there's a lot of room for improvement there. Dabo's proven that he can be a really good coach. As you mentioned, he was a stopgap. He wasn't ever supposed to be this multiple-time winning national champion. But there's a reason why. When we were starting to talk about that Alabama job, and if there was ever a day that Nick Saban would step away from that job, why Dabo, it was always assumed, not just because of his ties to the school, why Dabo was the natural pick. And for there to be a hiring cycle at the University of Alabama, and for Dabo to be dismissed, totally out of pocket, no shot in hell no shot in heck that dude is going to be the head coach over at Alabama, tells you exactly where these programs that know exactly what it takes to be done right now when it comes to talent acquisition, being successful in the modern age. Dabo doesn't really fit that profile. He's at the perfect school because he's at the school that he had all that success with, and he brought them all the way back, that they're not going to get rid of Dabo. And like I said, they had a strong finish to the season last year, but I'd be nervous. I'd be real nervous.
Apparently a guy also mooned the portal, so his ass was broadcast. I'm not sure actually which side that was on. His ass was broadcast in the portal either in New York or in Dublin.
Dublin showed a picture of the Twin Towers falling down in the portal to New Yorkers.
What?
That's another thing that
I
happened.
think it's pretty unfair to just categorize this as the entire city of Dublin. There was one wayward dude that put a phone.
Yeah, sorry.
Still.
That's fair. The
Although,
one person.
But I do think that the lady flashing her boobs does speak for all of New York City.
I think she was in Dublin.
She was in Dublin?
It didn't look like Times Square. I mean, we don't have to put the video back up, but
she was in Dublin?
I was pretty sure that one was in Ireland.
Wow, I'm not sure what I'm doing there, but good on you, Ireland. I wasn't familiar with your game.
Another update. ESPN.
You think they don't have boobs there?
ESPN broke into First Take to show Scheffler's first shot. So it's already good for
I
him.
cannot wait to hear Stephen A. Smith talk about Scottie Scheffler.
Oh
my God, what is it going to be?
He's just going to rip the officers. Just rip them. A disgrace.
I don't really know what the takes are here. I don't know what the move is here with the Scottie Scheffler thing, other than to laugh.
She was in New York, apparently. According to the New York Post, she's an OnlyFans model. It says OnlyFans model who flashed NYC Dublin portal, same woman who told Dr. Phil she'd rather, quote, die hot than live ugly.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so like when you cut me with they don't have boobs in Dublin, I'm like, I'm sure they have boobs, but when it comes to OnlyFans models, I like the chances of it being in New York, and that gave off Lincoln bio.
I still think you're selling Ireland very short.
Well, I would like to be there, no doubt.
Florida State, Georgia Tech, Aer Lingus College Football
Are
Classic.
you going to week one? College Game Day announced that they're going to be at Kyle Field, College Station
I am strongly considering it. Maybe Lucy and I can do a little Meadowlark trip there together.
Tag team the off-roading. I loved College Station. I loved my game day experience there. They're nutty. It's a cult. That's not a cult, but
Notre Dame's got none of that. So
were you hoping for
the Catholic religion has none of that going for it.
Were you hoping for Florida?
No, but I was surprised that it was a 3:30, and it's come to my attention that the reason that they got that 3:30 window, because noon is Georgia and Clemson. I'm a big Cane guy, and I love our rivalry with the Florida Gators. Hate them Gators. But when I tell you the games here are Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Clemson, Georgia, and Florida, Miami, it's pretty easy to tell who should be the noon start there. But I think ESPN, with this brand new SEC deal, as you know, SEC football, the window is that 3:30 window. So they're using Miami and Florida to really launch pad the SEC on ESPN. Same window as you always remember, just different network, which is really cool for Miami to be a part of that. And I'll double down. Talk to more people about this because I floated that take out there.
Even more important.
It's the most important game in the history of UM football.
if I'm being honest, I wasn't looking at the background of the video. I was looking at her boobs. So that's why I couldn't tell her.
So you've been on the record saying it's the most important game in the history of the program, and you got word back that you've undersold it.
I've just heard the counters, and I understand national championships and all that. I'm not discounting those. What I'm saying is the investment from the university, the investment from the boosters, the ability to step up to the plate in ways that this fan base that quite honestly does a lot of stuff from the sidelines. And it's understandable why. There's a very small student body. Most of the Miami fan base didn't actually go to the school. There really isn't an active alumni base when it comes here. But the fans stand on the sideline, and a lot of people stepped up to the plate in ways that the fan base didn't really understand were even possible.
Apparently, she also licked a toilet just as the COVID-19 pandemic was spreading, a toilet seat on an airplane. So, yes.
That's the girl?
American. Very American.
I thought she looked familiar.
But, Mike, if they lose against Florida and win out, like, they're going to be in the playoff. They're going to I get what you're saying.
You can paint that scenario, but I think Florida, this is essentially a loser leaves town match between Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal, and I'm not saying, like, Mario, you can't. But in terms of perception, you can basically write off the loser, given how these two programs are being talked about right now. They need to show you something. For the University of Miami, this tree needs to bear fruit. This investment in year 3 of Mario Cristobal, you actually need to see some real marked progress. And I know that the over-unders, again, aren't gospel, but if you look at this, you'd be shocked to learn Miami has the same over-under win total as Alabama and Michigan. 9.5. 9.5. This is a team that hasn't won over that number since they've maybe done that once in the last 20 years.
Notre Dame year?
It's 9.5. Now, if you really want to get into the betting weeds, the reason for that is the SEC is stronger, the Big Ten is stronger, the ACC is a weaker conference, but also they expect Miami to be better. So the expectations are there. And by the way, the staff doesn't shy away from it. They know what happens here. They know the dialogue that is going to be around this program if they do lose that game to Florida. They welcome that challenge. They welcome those expectations. They know it's a big one. We've been doing a lot of tough talk here, and we've actually been backing it up when it comes to providing the coach and the staff and the athletic department the resources to go and do a good job, which is why, in ways that we've never done before, which is why I firmly believe this is the most important football game in the history of the program.